Hi, Mona. You're on mute.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's so
Very
nice to see you.
great to see you.
I'm gonna start by introducing you for those who don't know you, if that's okay.
Please.
All right. So joining us today is Mona Ataya, the founder of Mum's World, co-founder of Bait, digital advisor and board member. Mona has won more than 80 awards throughout her career, and she's amongst the top two Forbes Women Creating Impact in the Middle East region and was voted among the top 100 powerful Arab women in Forbes and many, many more. And Mona is my former boss and a lady who inspires me so much. It's great to be with you.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, so I'm gonna start with our questions just to make sure that we stay on time. And I'm starting with purpose. You started an amazing entrepreneurial journey. How important is it for entrepreneurs to stay anchored in their purpose?
The very important, and let me start by saying that the entrepreneurial journey is a very difficult one. It's filled with a tremendous amount of uncertainty and challenges. The very nature of entrepreneurship is really creating something from nothing, disrupting either a product or an ecosystem that hasn't been disrupted, and figuring out things that haven't been figured out before. And in all of that, there are tremendous uncertainties and challenges. And unless you have gone down this path of entrepreneurship with a very clear view of why you're doing, what your purpose is, what does the finish line look like, if there is a finish line, then whenever these challenges arise, and they will arise all the time, then it's very easy to kind of not go to the finish line. So that's the first thing. The second one is in a personal fulfillment. All of us, our work is part of us. It's our home, our family, and our work is our life. And so personal fulfillment is a big part of work. And insofar that you are living your purpose through what you do, this is where your personal fulfillment increases. And the last thing I will say is, consistency and clarity. As you go down your journey in your communication with your team members, in your leadership, in your shareholder meetings, insofar that you are consistent and clear on what it is that you're trying to achieve, and it's aligned with your purpose, then you become more credible, more strong, and more likely to go to the finish line.
I love that. Thank you so much. Amazing insights for the entrepreneurs with us. You said that, doing this is really hard, and I can relate because I can see that it's very hard. It's been hard for me in my company, and I've seen it with many other entrepreneurs. What do you think the effect of entrepreneurship is on mental health? As today is World Mental Health Awareness Day, so given that today is the day and we are doing this conference in celebration of World Mental Health Awareness Day, how do you think entrepreneurship impacts mental health, positively or negatively, both?
Sure. So, on one side, because of what I talked about just now, the tremendous challenges and uncertainty and risks on all levels, financial, personal, vision, because of that, the amount of stress you are very likely to experience is tremendous. And unless you have outlet to release that stress, or perhaps not release it, but perhaps have a paradigm whereby you expect challenges, you expect ups and downs, and it's part of the journey that you've signed up for. So how do you manage that kind of stress dynamic? That's on one side. The other part of mental health really is about um, paradigm shifts, and this is something that I learned over time, and that is reminding myself again and again, I signed up for this. This is a
Mm.
vision that I want to achieve for a purpose, and the purpose is incredibly important to me. And with that, paradigm where I'm doing this because of that finish line, then you're able to kind of manage the mental challenges that come with it. The last thing I will say is it's absolutely essential for entrepreneurs to switch off every once in a while. And that's not your typical, summer vacation or Christmas vacation. It really is about reconnecting with yourself all the time and saying, am I able to continue this marathon now, or do I need to pause? And as entrepreneurs, this frequent pause is very, very important. And you realize that when you do pause and you do disconnect and you do re-reflect, that you're able to come back much stronger and more energized.
I love that. Can you tell us maybe a story about when you've had to pause? And I know that you've discussed that in your TEDx talk, which is beautiful, by the way. We shared it on our channels. When at one point in your life did you pause or step back and rethink things? Can you tell us more about that?
So I paused many times. There are pauses that were smaller pauses and pauses that were bigger pauses. I remember um, when we had just closed our B round of funding. It was a round that was incredibly difficult. It took us a year and a half. What was supposed to take a few months took us triple the amount of time. So by the end of it, it was incredibly I felt incredibly exhausted, and I was on a business trip in the UK. I finished my meetings, and I decided there and then, completely spontaneously, to not fly back to Dubai, which is home, but to disconnect and go somewhere else and just do nothing for a week. Except drink tea and read books and walk in nature. And then I came back a week later, much, much stronger. So that's one pause. If you want me to talk about a bigger pause, and I don't know if this is a pause or not, but it's kind of as an entrepreneur, when your journey takes different paths. And for me, I exited my last business, Mum's World, and it was time. That was a time where it had reached a certain a critical scale. I had built it to where I wanted to build, and it was time for me to step down and give it to the next great leaders. And so that was a pause away from that particular vision, but certainly not a pause in my mission and vision as an entrepreneur, because other things then take place.
I could never imagine Mona pausing long term anyways, because it's not Mona. And I remember, it was such a privilege working with you in Mom's World and making the impact that you were making. You were touching so many lives, 2.5 million moms, if not 3.5 towards the end, right? How did you feel you did that under pressure, especially during days of COVID? When things were just crazy. How did you stay anchored to your purpose in the midst of all the chaos? Not just COVID, like you've gone through so much, right? So how did you do that?
So just as a footnote with Mum's World, I was an entrepreneur before I started Mum's World. I was a co-founder in a very fast-growing business. I was a mother of 3 children under the age of 10. For all intents and purposes, my hands were tied. I was overextended as it was. So launching another business, and particularly an e-commerce business, which is incredibly cash intensive, very complex, difficult supply chain, nascent ecosystem. Really, if you look at it logically, there were all the reasons why in 2011, why not to launch Mum's World. And particularly for me as an entrepreneur running another business and as a mother. But I did it because it was so important. Because, to your point, the vision of empowering mothers to make the most informed decisions for their children, and giving power to the mother really to feel that she's doing the best for her children, that was my driver. And selfishly, it was my driver for myself, because I wanted to know that I, as a mother, was doing everything I possibly could to raise my children with all the resources and tools for them to be happy, successful, etc. And so with that always in the back of my mind, whatever came along the journey was just part of the journey. It was difficult, but guess what? The mission and the vision was so much more important than the difficulty. And so when COVID hit, look, we saw all sorts of challenges with Mom's World. And I was very fortunate that I had a great partner. So, I was able to kind of balance things with her, which was great. And when COVID came, we found ourselves with almost like, virgin territory where all the rules of the game changed. The supply chain completely collapsed. We're an e-commerce company. We have to operate warehouses. We have to operate first mile and last mile cars. We have to get products shipped in and products shipped out. All of that in a day shut down. So how do you operate? And so we really had to reinvent everything, from the way we communicate internally, the way we communicate externally, the way we, manage our supply chain. And it involved creativity. It involved thinking out of the box. It involved stamina. And most of all, it involved a clear commitment that, this is really, really hard, but it doesn't matter. I remember during COVID, I sat in every seat of the organization, from customer care to data entry to supply chain, everything. I had headphones in my ears, as I was listening to customers, shouting because their orders were delayed. So you jump into roles to make sure that you're able to reinvent. So the answer is very, very difficult. We survived it. We thrived from it. And we came out from the other side thinking, or believing that, we can pretty much solve anything that is worth solving if we believe in it and if we're creative enough. And as a team, we are united. And the Mums World team during COVID was incredibly united in our mission and in our vision. And that is what I believe got us to the other side of the line.
And you say that, just a while ago, you said that I did that selfishly for myself. Actually, when you look at the definition of purpose, or at least one of my definitions of purpose, it's actually solving something for yourself first and foremost, and then going out and helping others solve it. So I think there's a yin and yang between, when do I do something for me versus when do I do something for the community? Because doing something for the community benefits me and vice versa. So if we had a magic wand and could ask you to describe your own definition of purpose or a formula for purpose, what would you say it is?
My definition of purpose.
Or your formula for finding purpose.
So for me personally, and again, this is from my personal experience, my purpose has been shaped from upbringing, culture, education, exposure, sensitivities. What makes, you said earlier that we are driven by purpose selfishly. I actually would rephrase that slightly, and I would say, for me, at least I would think so, and perhaps it is wrong. Certainly, in order for you to achieve a mission or a vision, you need to be empowered with resources and tools to allow you to do that. So that's the first thing. But the purpose is bigger than you. Your mission is bigger, it's bigger than you. So if my task is to empower moms to make the most informed decisions, because when you empower a mom, you empower a child, and when you raise great children, you change the world. And I keep saying that if that's your mission, it is far greater than you as a human being. You're just part of the equation. And by doing it for the ecosystem and the world and this universe you live in, you're also doing it for yourself.
And I love the fact that you bring in the child in this. My own child is actually sitting here watching you. You are one of her inspirational women. So what would you say to the future generation? I know that we had a discussion with Stephanie right before you, and we talked about Gen Z and how they're very different from, our generation. What would you advise a young person in the space of purpose and mental health?
Sure. So the world has changed, and it is no more. It's no easier for the new generation than it was for us. They have different tools and resources that are, supposedly enablers and more than we had. But enablers also are a double-edged sword. And so, for me, I will say to that generation exactly what I say to my children, and that is. Learn, develop the skills, and do something that is going to make what's around you move in a positive direction. So be positive, whatever that is. And so, insofar that you can develop these skills and tools, and in order, by the way, to develop these skills and tools, what do you need? You need to be a lifelong learner. You need to be curious. I encourage everybody, the young generation and us, to be lifelong learners, to be curious about everything. And today we are living in a world of disruption where everything is changing. And with the advent of AI and technology, the world as we know it is shifting at incredibly fast speed. And so insofar that we are constantly learning and adapting, then we will continue to be able to innovate and disrupt and contribute positively.
And the world is changing very fast, and you are a digital advisor. And right after you, we have Samia from the World Bank talking about the effect of AI on mental health, both positively and negative. What to you is the effect of AI on mental health?
What AI is going to introduce to the world positively, and it already has done that, is it's providing us with a tremendous amount of enablers to allow us to make faster decisions, more efficient decisions, and faster processes. And a lot of the stuff that we do as human beings
Mm.
is going to be moved out of our plate, so that instead of us doing the base, I would say the basic stuff, we can start using different capacities. So that's it on a positive front. On the negative front, I mean, AI is based on what? It's based on core data. So in order for it to deliver, it needs data. And data is coming from you. So everything that's going on around us is now being fed into this AI engine or this AI pool. So there's this element also, the sensitivities of confidentiality, of privacy, and your next speaker will probably talk about that, where how much does the world know about you, want to know about you, and how much can you keep private and confidential? And we are entering a world where very little is private and confidential.
And my last question, and maybe our next speaker will come and interject here also at a later stage. So my next question and my last question before we play, also like I did with all the other speakers, is if we're putting together a list of recommendations and bringing these forward after this conference for all sectors, for the media sector, for the private sector, for the government, so that each sector can actually take on a task to improve mental health, especially for entrepreneurs. If you could give one recommendation, what would that recommendation be? And
To
to which,
improve, to improve mental health.
yeah, choose any sector and what would your recommendation be?
So one of the things that I found is a core driver of also the challenges in mental health is when a professional is feels not empowered, when they feel not in control, when they feel they do not have the resources and the tools to make decisions to go left or right. And in that, there's a tremendous amount of pressure, a tremendous amount of stress, etc., and then mental health. And so, insofar that as employers and ecosystems, we can make it much easier for people to feel, or professionals to feel, that they are in charge of their own destiny. And I'll give you an example. So, we saw from COVID this push to hybrid work environments. At one point, people moved home, and then they moved back into the office, and then they found this middle balance of this hybrid work environment. there have been studies around the positive impact on mental health of this hybrid work environment. Because if I get up today and I'm not in the mood to interact with my peers, or I'm just tired, or I had a rough day yesterday, I can choose to work from home or from a cafe or from somewhere else, insofar that I'm, doing what I'm supposed to do in my job. That is a small element that has a tremendous amount of added value for professionals. The other thing also for entrepreneurs, um, a few years ago, certainly when I started my businesses, access to information, tools, resources to allow me to make informed decisions was very, very limited. Information was scarce, information was not transparent, and so oftentimes you made decisions based on that. Today, we have moved into this environment where information and resources are a lot more accessible. So insofar that entrepreneurs are given that access and these enablers and taught how to use them and have the mentors to kind of guide them, that also mitigates a lot of the stress and mental pressure that comes with building businesses or working within an ecosystem.
Sounds good. I am being pinged by the team to start taking questions from the audience. I would love to do just a quick would you rather with you, if that's okay, before we do that.
Sure.
All right. I'm not going to ask you purpose or profit because I know the answer to that. You're going to choose purpose. Would you rather
I'm not
authentic?
going to choose purpose, actually. I'm going to
No?
choose profit, and I'll tell you why. Because you cannot deliver your purpose if you don't have the profit. It's just like in an airplane, you cannot save the child if you don't have your own seatbelt. You need the profit. So we are, as purpose-driven entrepreneurs, we're also realistic. And we know that in order for us to teach, we need to learn. In order for us to give, we need to take. And in order for us to be purpose-driven, we need to be profit-driven. And that's really, really important.
Did you see all the hearts you got and all the claps you got on the screen? No?
Great.
You were getting a lot of love and hearts. Actually, you are the first speaker who chose profit, and I'm very proud of you. And it's wonderful because I also agree with you that I think you can't have purpose without profit, but you also, when you have profit without purpose, it's miserable. So I think I always advocate for the combo of both. And it's wonderful that you said that. Would you rather have an extra hour of sleep or an extra hour of doing something you love?
So I know sleep is essential, and I'm learning. Um, but I really would rather do something I love instead of the sleep. I know that's in the long term, that's not to my advantage, but yes, I prefer to do rather than to sleep.
And if you had to choose between return on investment or return on innovation, and you could only choose one, which one would you choose?
So look, with innovation, there will be return on investment. So innovation and disruption, and particularly in the world we live in today. So innovation is everything. This is today what is the driver of the new world that we live in. So innovation always comes first.
And if you could go back, we always say that the two most people you need to make proud are the 8-year-old version of you and the 80-year-old version of you. So if you could go back and talk to the 8-year-old version of Mona, what would you say to her?
What would I tell my 8-year-old self? My 8-year-old self was incredibly competitive. I would say, well done, keep going, keep competing, keep racing to the finish line.
Amazing. And what would you say to, how would you envision your 80-year-old self and what would you want to see happen?
Um, First and foremost, family is everything. You live your life for community. You build your businesses for community. You surround yourself with community, and first and foremost, at the front line of the community is family. So my 8-year-old self, I hope, will be surrounded by family and community that I have hopefully impacted positively, inspired, learned from, and taught something to.
I'm like your adopted family. You have certainly made that impact. I'm like inserting myself in there. Maybe one last question, and then I know that there's somebody in the audience that has a question. Your favorite quote, Mona, before we close.
What you put in, you get out.
Sweet and simple. Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been awesome to have you with us. And I'm going to turn it over to Nadine because I see that there are a few questions in the chat already. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nadine?
Yes, Mona, thank you so much for that. We have an anonymous question that we're going to ask while we also bring up Neha, who also has a question. So the anonymous question says, you mentioned the challenges businesses faced during COVID. And what were the best lessons learned there? Did the crisis help certain employees stand out as challenge takers? How did you feel that impacted the employees as well?
That's a great question. At hard times, more than at any time, you see the soldiers, the true soldiers, the people who are brave, who are strong-willed, who have grit, who are creative, who come to the front line. So certainly for me, for COVID, there were first of all, I say the Mums World team overall was instrumental to how we came out of COVID, which is stronger than ever. So we couldn't have done that if we were not united. So that's the first thing. We were a very strongly united organization, and that's how we were able to survive and thrive COVID. There were team members from all departments at all levels, bottom up and top down, that shone. I mean, I remember I would be with the headphones talking to customers after midnight, and I remember a night when one of the customer care ladies texts me and she goes, "Get offline, I'm going to cover for you." And she didn't need to do that. So, that's the kind of brave soldier that stands in front. Our logistics and our operations team were phenomenal. They were phenomenal. And they were part of the kind of the reinventing and disrupting our supply chain. So yes, I mean, you know who stands to the forefront, and you know the ones that don't. And there's a bit of both.
Okay, perfect. I am trying to promote Neha to panelist, but in the chance that she is not comfortable coming up on screen, I will ask her question on her behalf. A few ways that you would recommend to maintain a good mental health at work. Maybe just two top tips from you, Mona, would be great.
The first thing I'm going to say, and I've said this before, and I think Lubna has heard me say this before, is employment is voluntary. Employment is voluntary. You choose your job voluntarily. Nobody forces anyone to have a job. And insofar that you have chosen that job, then a positive attitude, a positive mindset, a paradigm that is a solution paradigm as opposed to a problem paradigm is the most important. And you'll see that in different organizations. You have the person who sees the problem and who complains about it, and the person who, no matter how difficult things are, always sees the solution and the opportunity. So the first thing I do to protect, I say to protect your mental health is protect your paradigm. Expect the best, don't expect the worst. And that's really, really critical in the way you look at your job and how the job looks at you. And employers love positive people. Employers love solution-driven people. Employers love people who are smiling when they come into the office and get along with their team members. That is, I would rank that really as the highest trait you can have as a professional, and the highest trait you can have to protect your mental health. That's the first thing. The second thing, look, if you're tired, if you're stressed, if you can't get things done, just be honest. Pick up the phone, call your boss and say, "Listen, I can't make it to the office today. I'm having a rough day. I'm having a tough time, or, you know, I'm stuck, I need some time off. So being able to, and I said this earlier, to disconnect and look, as entrepreneurs and as leaders in an organization, we are blessed in that, you know, we can kind of manage our time. And I hope that we enter into this professional arena where everybody is empowered to manage their time. And if you're able to do that, then your mental health is easier to protect as you disconnect.
Perfect. I will take one more question from the Q&A. I will ask Victor to accept our request to be a panelist so that we can bring you up live to ask your question to Mona. All right. So I'll also ask Victor to please switch on your camera and your mic as soon as you do come on so that we can have you on screen.
How are you doing? Everything okay? Mona, thank you for the beautiful talk. I really loved it. Basically, my main interest is in the part related to AI. AI is something that we're always worried about, and yes, today we are all sure about the good things that AI is bringing into this world. But at the same time, I believe we are all worried about the bad it can bring us tomorrow. But my question is not about if it will bring bad, because every tool has a good and a bad in it. My main concern is how should we look at it, or what's your advice, especially that we are intentionally skipping that part or delaying handling that part for the sole purpose of faster going to market? That's basically my question. Thank you.
So your question is about should we be delaying AI and going to market faster, or should we wait till we have AI before we go to market? Is that your question?
I don't believe we can delay AI going to the market. That's life, right? Once the genie is out of the bottle, it's out there. Everybody will be running to capture it. But we are lacking a lot of laws, regulations, rules, standards, anything that can protect us from the harm it will bring tomorrow. My question, because I know that Bait uses AI. I'm sure Mom's World at some point now is using AI. I'm sure everyone is using AI. But as the key person there, how do you handle that aspect of AI? How do you protect your consumers, your users from AI today from the harms it will bring us tomorrow? Because it will bring harm. We know that.
So it's a pretty broad question, but I'll answer, Victor, you know, kind of in a succinct way as I can. The AI basically is allowing us to gather data and use this data to make more informed decisions faster. So that's the positive part of AI. Just for perspective, Victor, whether it's fintech or AI or all of these radical innovations that we are now witnessing, it is natural that regulations and government policies, et cetera, around them are going to lag for a while, because we are moving at such a rapid pace in the development of these solutions that government is not going to catch up. It's kind of playing catch-up game. So there is, you know, a chance that you may do something or introduce a tool that perhaps tomorrow will have more stringent regulations, but that's okay. You can still go down that path. So I'll say, the first thing I'll say is you need to understand how AI plays within your organization. So for example, if you look at Bait.com, one of the most important aspects of AI is how do you better connect the job seeker and employer? So how do you make the CV smarter, and how do you make the employer screening smarter? So how do you then bring AI in to gather and assimilate that information to make these informed decisions? So that's one of the tools of AI. When you're doing that, you need to make sure at the same time that you're protecting job seeker data and employer data, that it's not shared outside your platform, that it's only used to maneuver or to make informed decisions as opposed to be used outside your particular platform. So as an organization, the onus is on you to see where you need solutions met and where AI can kind of solve these. And then you have your own inner regulations, ultimately to protect your customer, which is the first and the most important priority you have as an organization, regardless of which industry you operate in. I hope that has answered your question, broad question.
Yeah,
and I
it
hope
has
it answered-
somehow. I agree. It's a very broad question. I agree about that. But thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. All right, Mona, thank you so much for your time. I wish you a nice afternoon or evening. And we're very, very grateful for you. And I'm very grateful for all the inspiration that you've done in my life.
Thank you, Lubna. Thank you
All
for
right.
everything you as well. And a pleasure to be here with all of you.